What milestones are you planning to hit like in the next few years,
I'd like to be an F3 by 2026 or some level of F3, and then hopefully in F1 by the time I'm 23. My name is Kabir Anurag. I'm a Formula 4 driver and I'm from Singapore. The first time I was in a go-kart, I was around 11. I was already late to the party. I mean, when I had actually really started to take racing seriously, we had to almost click fast forward on it, So we started in Singapore, and then we very quickly had to go to Malaysia and then straight to Italy and kind of just jump into the deep end.
There was an article that said you lost a lot of weight, like you went through a physical transformation, right, to be what you are.
Yeah. So when you rock up to your first international race, about 9 kilos overweight, you're just uncompetitive, and it was a bit of a wake-up call when I first came here, and
you are the first Singaporean ever to be in the F1 development program. What does it mean to you to have achieved that?
It does mean a lot to me because it means that it's not just me believing that I can do it. There's a whole Formula One team that's believing in me as well.
I read up and saw that you had a crash, right?
It was definitely a little bit demoralizing. I mean, you feel like it's going to be really hard to come back. But honestly, I feel like that time out, just being away and just realizing that the sport actually has risks and there is a danger element to it, it kind of made me more mature after coming back into the sport.
All right, so why not we start off by introducing yourself? Like, what's your name and what do you do?
My name is Kabir Anurag. I'm a Formula 4 driver and I'm from Singapore.
Beautiful. How did you get into racing? Like, how did it all begin?
So racing was always something that I enjoyed. It's definitely an event for our country. Many people enjoy it. Many people look at it as a spectacle. But for me, I always looked at it as like something I wanted to try and something I wanted to do. And once I actually got old enough to figure out how to do it, then I started to kind of build my way towards karting, and I started just as doing it for fun. And then once I started to realize that, okay, maybe this is a career, I really fully pursued it. But yeah, the main reason that I kind of got into the sport was mainly the Grand Prix in Singapore.
Actually, how old are you right now?
I turned 17 this year, so I turned 17 in August. So yeah, 17.
So when do you first started racing? Like, how old?
So the first time I was in a go-kart, I was around 11. It was the first time that I was in a go-kart that was, actually meant for competition. And I started to do it more as a hobby, but then when COVID came around, I had to stop for a year and a half, and only then I really picked up the sport as in a competitive interest mid 2021. So it was kind of like I started in 2019, stopped because things kind of got in the way, and then restarted again in mid to late 2021.
I see. What a journey so far, right? Where was it? Was it in Singapore when you first started go-karting, or was it?
Yeah, so genuinely, I'm not really the atypical kind of career. I started in Singapore, and I started already when I first jumped in the go-kart. I was already late to the party.
Mm-hmm.
And then when COVID came, I mean, when I had actually really started to take racing seriously, and when we knew, okay, this is something we want to do, we had to almost click fast forward on it. So we started in Singapore, and then we very quickly had to go to Malaysia and then straight to Italy and kind of just jump into the deep end because Singapore it's a great place to start. It's near your home, and you enjoy. But to really speed up, we had to take a different route. So, but yeah, Singapore was originally where it all began.
100%. I don't know if you know, but I was speaking Christian, right, the other day, and yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things that I learned about Formula racing driving, right? Because I was never really into it, not until recent years, and I saw that a lot of drivers are living in Europe, right? Where like UK, Italy, and there where it's it's competitive, it's bustling, it's where it's how you improve and get ahead of the game, right? And
Yep.
so then I was reading a bit about you, and there was an article that said you lost a lot of weight. Like you went through a physical transformation, right, to be what you are
Yeah.
right now. And what was that process like? Like how did it affect your driving, and do you face any challenges when you're trying to lose all that weight?
Yeah, so as everybody knows, racing is a sport that's all about, milliseconds and hundreds. So when you rock up to your first international race about 9 kilos overweight, which makes a heap of time in the grand scheme of things, a lot of lap time. Um, of course, you're just uncompetitive, and it was a bit of a wake up call when I first came here, and the process of realizing, oh, okay, now if I want to do it, I can't just it's not a hobby anymore. It has to be everything if you want to be good at the sport. So that transformation, I mean, it was like I would never before do anything fitness wise. I mean, I would do the bare minimum of fitness. My diet was non-existent. It was cravings, how it is. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
I feel like I'll eat this. Um, and I mean, I think it was almost like there's moments where you have to take time into it, but we had to go 100%, because we wanted to make the races in a few weeks from that time on the right weight limit, right?
Mm,
Which was about in 3 months. Those races that so we first came in September, and that's when I did my first race, and I realized all this stuff, and then it transferred over. We knew we were racing again in a few weeks, and we had to lose as much weight as possible within that time period. So it was just wake up. I mean, this is from a person who never did anything before.
mm,
Wake up at 7 a.m., go run, clean diet, train in the afternoon again. And it was just everything that we could do at that point to try to be, in better shape and in a better position for the next race weekend. And at the end, we chose to actually take a different path and to step a bit of away from that category into a different category. But we had to do all the transformation and all the stuff. And for me, in that point of time, it was definitely difficult because you always need a little bit of motivation, I believe, and I didn't
mm.
really have the discipline needed yet at that time. Yeah, mentally it was just a little bit. It was very challenging, but it was necessary. Is how I put it. It had to happen, and yeah,
100%. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of beautiful insights you provided, right? I mean, especially when it comes to competitive sports, especially if you want to be, the best of the best, right? And the elite athlete, you gotta do what no one else does. You gotta really inch closer. You gotta hit that 0.1%, every single day. That 1%, you get better and better and better. And I think, like you said, it can get really like not motivating, right? When you don't have anyone around you. That's why sometimes it's good to have someone like coaches and everything to push you on forward. Because there's so many factors that come into play, right? Like you said, your diet. I don't know how serious it gets for F1. Like like bodybuilding, right? They count like the macros and everything, like the carbohydrates, the fats, and it gets very 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 all the fine details. What makes a top athlete really a top athlete? Like not like the best of the top athlete. You get what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So 100%. No, I think I'm very happy to see how much you've grown, and especially like you said, when you're looking back and it really made you a different person, like more mature, more disciplined. You're improving every day. You feel when you work out, you feel good. Kind of that kind of that
Yeah.
mindset. So yeah, so I mean, obviously, you've done so well so far, and there's so much ahead. And this year, I mean, most recently, you are the first Singaporean ever to be in the F1 development program. When you joined Alpine Academy, right? I mean, the shirt that you're wearing. What does it mean to you to have achieved that?
Yeah, so something like we talk about is, when you first come to the sport, these kind of things, joining an academy, which is very prestigious, and it almost puts you into the top bracket. Um, what it almost means is like it's something that you look far into the distance of. You never think it's gonna come, like an opportunity like that will come soon. You think, okay, maybe 5 years down the line I'll get a deal like that. Or maybe, when I do this, or maybe, but to get an opportunity like that this early in my career was not something I expected. just when I had first started to test cars, to think that in just a year process of starting to test cars to having being announced for the Alpine Academy, and of course the works had started earlier, but yeah, it was a very quick process. It was not something that any of us expected, but it does mean a lot to me because it means that I have the support. Like, it's not just me believing that I can do it. There's a whole Formula One team that's believing in me as well, you know? And that just gives you that extra motivation to when you're feeling a bit down and you start to doubt yourself. There's so many people that are thinking, okay, you can actually do it. There's so much potential there that you know, they actually believe in it. And that's the thing for me is like I was not the driver that had done years of karting and like, you know, you see your Verstappens and your Leclercs and they've done years and years and years of karting. You see them in karts when they were babies and their dads were racing drivers as well. And I was never from that traditional route. So to get to the level of, you know, being an academy driver within just 3 years of just actually properly starting my career was, yeah, it was really, it shows the hard work, you know, can really go in and it can, if you're just working smart and working hard, doing a little bit more than what you just have to do, but you're doing a little bit more and you're putting your ego aside and you're letting yourself work, it can bring you to a level actually much quicker than people can expect. That's what so that's why I think I was selected for the Alpine Academy is because I was not just, you know, the traditional route, but I was making it work the untraditional way. And that's what's really exciting. I feel, you know, that you're coming from a small country across the globe, living in a completely different world, and you're still, you know, so raw potential, but I was able to do a good job and it can just, it just means, you know, with more years, where can I be? So that's what's really exciting to me in the academy. And yeah, I think it's one of the it's something that I think I keep close to my heart with them. The people are really, really good in Alpine. They're very hardworking, very hardworking. The fitness side is really strong. The mental side is really strong. Yeah, I can just propel you to a whole new level, you know. So I think, yeah, it's, it's a very big deal for me, but it's also always a bit of an extra motivation boost to know that there is so much people rooting for you, you know.
100%. I mean, that's absolutely brilliant. And no, I mean, like you said, like the hard work you put in shows, right? Even though you don't come from that traditional background, like you said, a lot of those pro F1 drivers, they did a lot of karting, right? Like you said. Actually, just break it down to me, right? Very simply. What is the F1 development program? Like, what makes it different from, like, I don't know, like other programs in like F4, F3?
Okay, so how an F1 developmental program kind of works is that it's almost like an academy is like there. Since I'm racing in F4, I'm racing with a team called Us Racing, and I'm racing with them. They are running my car, doing all the setups. I work with their engineers, their mechanics. But Alpine is the outfit I'm with, so they will work more with me personally, trying to help me be better. And so essentially on track, they don't actually play a part with my car, you know, how the car works and any of that side, but they play a part in making me better as a person. Um, and so as a developmental program works, it's specifically just trying to improve you and it's just focusing on you as but you individually will still have to progress through F4, F3, F2 like everybody else does. But what a developmental program is saying is like, okay, we've selected you to be part of our group of drivers that we think can, you know, go the distance with us and go to Formula One. So we're going to select you and we're going to help you improve, help you progress. And yeah, so the BWT Alpine F1 Academy is kind of just helping me improve so that I'm ready for whatever's next. So it's not necessarily playing a part in my car or performance in that retrospect, but it's just helping me improve. So, I mean, I always have to explain this to people because it is a bit of a hard concept to understand
Mm.
how it truly works. You know, because people say, "Oh, but you're racing with a team called US, but you're an Alpine driver. How does that work?" So it is definitely a bit complicated. Um, but it's almost like being out on loan, I'd say, or something around that concept of
I
having.
feel like it's like like a mentor
Yeah,
that's there to help you get better, right? Like they don't
yeah,
directly get involved in like your on the ground racing in your car and all that,
yeah,
but like in terms of mindset, in terms of improving, in terms of progressing as a
yeah,
person, like your traits, to get to the top, because they know what it takes to get to the top,
yeah,
right? So I don't know,
yeah,
it's kind of like a mentor mentee relationship. Yeah, that's what I feel.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Definitely. Actually, yeah, that's probably how I'm gonna start describing it to people from now on. That's a good analogy.
Yeah, sweet. And all right, so I mean, you've been I mean, obviously you love Formula racing driving. So who do you look up to? Who do you feel inspired by? I mean, all these years.
So firstly, I think like everybody else, I like to win. It's
Mm,
no it's no question that I like to be the guy who's the best.
mm,
And when I was young and I was watching Formula One on the streets of Singapore, it was always Sebastian Vettel who was the
mm,
best at that point of time. And so yeah, he just kind of slowly inched into being my favorite. And I would always, because you kind of always like to support the winner a little bit because you
mm,
look up to them. And so Sebastian Vettel was definitely my idol. When I was young, I would watch him and I would argue with my family, who were Mercedes fans, about who was better. Because yeah, so I think number one for me is Sebastian Vettel as an idol. Also Charles Leclerc, but I've started to like him even more as I've become a racing driver, because you always see that he's, especially in 2021, he wasn't always in the best, but he would always make it work, and occasionally he would put it on pole without the best car or without the best equipment, and that's something that I was always inspired by, is like making it work and having that like determination to know that okay, I may not be in the best stuff, but I can still do a really good job. That's also why I really started to like Charles.
fantastic, fantastic. And no, I think that's brilliant. And I don't know, for me personally, I don't know why I feel drawn towards Lewis, right? Lewis Hamilton. Not, I mean, he wins a lot, right? But that's not why I'm drawn towards him. I'm drawn more towards him because, like you said, he made it work, right? I don't know, he came from state council or something. He had a very tough past, and he had to go through so much more than the others to become what he is today. And he had to fight a lot of things, right? Not only in F1, right? Like ethnicity wise and
Yeah,
everything to become the best. So that I don't know, just something that I thought I shared with you. But
definitely. Yeah.
fantastic. So I mean, it's been a while since you started your career. So how do you think you've changed? Like, what milestones are you planning to hit, like in the next few years? You know?
Yeah, so milestones for the next few years. I mean, so next year we'll have to see, but I think we'll be looking at another season repeating what I've done this year,
Mm,
because how racing almost works is kind of in every category you have two brackets. So you have the rookies and you have the experienced drivers, right? So it's almost like if you imagine you were studying for your exams, you did a year, and then you repeated the year, you would do so much better in your second year, right? Because you
yeah,
have all the experience, you have all the learnings. And in racing, it's almost like that. So when you come in your rookie year, you try to just learn as much as you can, take as much in as you can, make your rookie mistakes. So you learn from them. And next year, I'll be going in as a second year. And so the goal will definitely be to be fighting for wins, be on the podium. And if I think I get everything right, I think a championship is even there. Yeah. So currently, I'm racing in the Italian F4, which it's definitely one of the most difficult championships. In previous years, some of the champions are like Kimi Antonelli, Oliver Bearman, and they both have F1 seats now. So I think it's definitely. I know I'm racing with the best, but I think if I work on myself and I make sure, because this year I've changed so much as a person, I feel like I'm ready to go into next year as a driver who can fight for a championship. So definitely within the closer milestones of championship. But I think long term, I just, of course, like anybody, I want to see myself becoming better every day, a little bit better. But yeah, I definitely think I'd like to be an F3 by 2026, or some level of F3, and then hopefully in F1 by the time I'm 23 or 24 or something down the line. Um, but yeah, how I feel like I've changed. as well. You asked how I feel like I've changed. I think the most important thing I've changed, but if I look at this in a short-term perspective, within the last 6 months, because within the last 6 months, I've changed as a driver completely, and it's even evident on my results. In the second half of the year, I was much stronger. I was consistently taking points. I had some really strong results as well. And I think the thing that changed most about me was I started to focus more on my processes. So what that means is like there's so much around a result, and especially when you're in a Formula One academy, there's also a lot of expectation, but not necessarily from the academy, but the expectation you put on yourself, carrying the name of a Formula One junior driver. And there's a lot of pressure, but what I think I improved on the most was just taking a step back and kind of getting out of the whole thing and just getting into the drive and just focusing on my processes when I'm in the moment. Like, what can I do? What can I do right now to do the best job I can? Except for thinking, oh, this result when I'm in the car, focusing on what's ahead and what can I do in the future and all this kind of stuff. But if you just focus on what you're doing in the moment, okay, let me make sure my tires are in temperature. Let me make sure I'm doing a good job in the lap. Let me make sure that I'm working on what we talked about before. And if you just focus on yourself, I think that's the most important thing is you put your ego aside. You put anything that's letting you just focus on yourself and just try to do the best job you always can. That learning has completely changed me within this whole year. To go from a driver who was inconsistent, struggling to find pace, to going to a driver who's able to be in the top five, who's able to score points consistently. And I think that progression is the reason why I have the confidence that I can go far in motorsports, is because I feel like I'm like this. Like as long as I'm just listening and I'm open, I can be like this. So I think that's the most important thing for me. Like how I've changed is just mindset. And think the worst thing you can do is focus on a result, because a result is just comes from what you've done in the moment. So if you focus on the moment, you get the result. But you have to learn that through doing it. You can't tell somebody that, because no matter how much you tell them, you have to live through it to find out, to find it out essentially.
100%. And I think if I would break everything down that you just said, it's what you mentioned, right? That word mindset. I think a lot of it comes down to mentality, right? And like you said, take a step back, focus, prioritize, because it can get very noisy. There's a lot of things that is going on, right? I mean, especially in like when it comes to cars and everything, that it gets very technical. Other things as well, sponsors, people telling you what to do, different people. So like you said, it's just to really focus on the right things, right? Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because like you said, you got to live through that experience in order to get better, right? It's about that experience that counts, and it's about that process that you're in, that really defines who you are and how you get better as a person. And more importantly, is your reaction towards that experience and that process, which really helps you evolve and develop better as a driver, as a human, as a person. So I think it's absolutely brilliant, and I'm so happy myself, and I'm sure all the Singaporeans alongside us in this small little red dot, this small little country, definitely rooting for you, definitely supporting you, and seeing your career take off. So you know, just focus on yourself, keep going, and I think you're definitely on the right track.
Just a quick one. I remember back when I was younger, I was going through an incredibly tough period in my life where I had no one to talk to about my problems. There was no place I could share my honest thoughts and feelings because I was just so afraid of being judged by people. And I realized that was so bad for my mental well being. It's like bottling up everything and just waiting for a day where it all explodes. So, no, we're not gonna let that happen for you. Because my team and I have developed a free social app called huddle.so, where you can share all your problems anonymously, whatever is currently on your mind that's bothering you, whatever is making you upset or giving you sleepless nights. This is a non-toxic app where you can just be yourself, heal, and make many wholesome friends that will be there for you to support you during difficult times. The app is currently available on iOS at the moment, so good news for iPhone users. But we are working really hard to get an Android version out as soon as we can, so we don't miss out on the rest of you. So trust me, download the app, give it a shot, and I guarantee you that your future you will thank you for taking care of yourself. I'll put the link in the description below as well, and I'll see you in Harvest.
I mean, and just to talk more about mentality, I mean, I read up and saw that you had a crash, right, at Imola, was it? The circuit. Was it in when was it actually?
It was just when I started testing cars, so 2023 April.
Oh, so that was just last year. That's crazy. And how did you cope with the physical and mental challenges that came with it, like that injury? I mean, it must have been really tough so early on, you know?
Yeah. So at that time I was 15, right? And so I was also very very immature, and I wasn't so smart in that moment. So that crash, it was definitely difficult in the moment. When you know that, oh, I'm gonna be out for 2 months, just 2 months where I'm gonna miss my career. I'm gonna miss all the stuff we had planned for the next 2 months. And so it was definitely a little bit demoralizing. I mean, you feel like it's gonna be really hard to come back. But honestly, I feel like that time out, just being away and just realizing that the sport actually has risks and there is a danger element to it, it made me more mature after coming back into the sport, knowing that, okay, I've broken my hand. I've now learned a lot from it, and it was a very difficult time because we were doing everything we could to get back in the car as quickly as possible. So it meant like I would have to sit in a hyperbaric chamber. So a
Mm.
hyperbaric chamber, it's basically something that increases oxygen flow in your blood and it helps recovery. So I would sit in these for 2 hours a day, and it would just be pretty lonely, to be honest. And then I'd go to the physio right after, and I'd be working on my hand, and then I'd go to the gym to try to train for the thing. And it was a very, very difficult schedule, difficult calendar at that point in my life. And mentally, it just took a bit of a toll on me because I would just start to feel like a little bit just like I'm doing all these things, but my hand is still not getting better. And it was very mentally challenging. But I think going through all that, when I came back to the sport, I was even more grateful for everything I was doing because I know how much I'm gonna miss it when I'm not there. So, and I also gained respect for the sport, knowing that there is a danger element. And so I think overall it was difficult in the moment, but I don't think I'd be the driver I am today without it.
Okay, yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's like you said, it's not something that you want, but sometimes it happens, and sometimes it can make or break a person, right? This kind of tough, difficult experiences. Um, it's about the mentality to come back stronger, and that's like I
Yeah.
said, what really defines you as a person. And like you said, you gain so much respect for the sport because of that unfortunate event. But no, it's very happy to see how it's taught you so many lessons and how you've become what you are currently today and what you are going to become in the future. And when you're on that trajectory. Yeah, just before my final question, I wanted to ask, like, how do you cope with schoolwork and all that kind of stuff? You know, like, I mean, I must imagine racing is like taking up like I don't know, like 99% of your life. I mean, how do you devote some time to like school and stuff? You know, are you doing homeschooling or international? Or what is it?
Uh, so I'm doing online schooling.
Okay.
So I do. So actually, right after this session, I have a class.
Oh no.
Um, so yeah, because I have my exams now. I have some exams. So what I do essentially is I break my exams up over periods of time. Because actually, what's weird is once I left school, I started getting better grades than when I was in school, because you actually have to really focus
Yeah.
in online schooling because it's one-on-one guy. So if you can't just talk to your friend while the teacher's teaching, you have to actually fully concentrate. So it's really weird how it actually has helped me get better grades. But coping with it is definitely sometimes you come back after a long test. You've just drove in, for example, we drive at Red Bull Ring. We drove at Red Bull Ring 2 days ago. Test was pretty good, and we had to drive back 6 hours, 5 to 6
Mm.
hours. And then you come back, you're tired, you just want to sleep, but then you wake up the next day to train, and then you finish your training. Oh, you're tired. Okay, class now. Oh, you're tired. Second session of training. Oh, you just want to sleep at that point, and then you get off, and it is definitely mentally exhausting. But I don't know. I think it's worth it when
Mm.
you just get everything done, and you're like that feeling of relief is when it's done is just it's just really really
Yeah.
yeah. But it is sometimes you just want to ghost your tutor and just fall asleep, but of course you can't. But
Yeah.
sometimes it is for that.
100%, it has to be done. Still young, education. But it's good that at least it's flexible, right? Like online schooling. I think that's very important, especially in a top athlete's career. Like you have that flexibility to manage your time wisely, and it's not like a like a 6 to I don't know, like 3 p.m. sort of thing every day.
Yeah,
It's good to
yeah.
manage it flexibly. I was thinking like you're recently in Singapore, right, for the F1. How was that? Like any cool experiences? I wasn't really following it, but what do you got to do when you were back recently?
So when I was back, I mean, firstly, it's amazing to be home, like
Mm-hmm.
any time. I love it, and especially for me, the Singapore Grand Prix is the time of the year where I feel like the city comes alive, and it is alive all the time. But it's when it feels like it, I relate to it a lot, because it's my sport, it's my career. So just, I mean, to go there, I hadn't gone in 5 years because I was really busy the other times. I was racing one of the weekends, and I was racing the weekend after, so we were really busy, right? We just couldn't make it work to come for the other time. So when I finally went, it just felt like a lot of nostalgia just to be back. And I mean, going into the paddock with Alpine was just something that I always dreamed about, being in the paddock. And I learned a lot. Firstly, it was my first experience being around the team on track. I will be around them with Abu Dhabi again, but that was my first experience being with them, and just to see how professionally a team operates. I would sit into the debriefs and I would listen to how the drivers would talk, and I would listen to how they would express, and I just see so much more like improvement in myself, in my professionalism, in my career, that I can learn from it. But just seeing, that this event is in Singapore, and but the Singaporeans don't have anybody to relate to yet. There's no
Yeah,
relation. It's just an event. So I feel like there's a big void for me to fill, and that's also something that I'm excited about, is because there's this, there's a lot of potential for me if I actually work hard, I do my job, and I complete my dream. It's gonna be really amazing, and that whole event is gonna be like, I feel like the whole grandstands would be supporting me at that point, because I mean, maybe there'll be another Singaporean there as well, but it would be amazing just to think that it's also motivation. It's a motivation boost.
yeah,
Like there's so much there for me.
beautiful. I mean, like you said, like you set a goal. There's a goal there to achieve, and if you achieve it, which I am rooting for you to achieve it, then it's on a whole nother level, right? Like you said, because there's no one that our country can relate to. So when that person comes, it'll be just such a beautiful feeling.
This is my So something I've started to allow myself to kind of be more self-reflective. I have a booklet
Yeah.
for on tracks, and like I've got my opening page,
Beautiful.
some, and in this, like I have a lot of models essentially, right?
Yeah.
And it's like quotes and stuff that if I'm ever feeling like I'm in a bit of a shit situation,
Mm-hmm.
I can look through the book. And usually, the second that I, look through the book, and I'm like, okay, you feel like you've got, you know, feel like you've figured out. So, for example, I've quotes, like not quotes, but things are how I control, like what can I control,
Mm-hmm.
what can I not control, and and it's like this is a type of thing I feel that every person needs, no matter what you're doing, is a book that you just write all your learnings in. And every weekend I change out the pages. I can show you a page, for example. Um, so we were just at Austria, right? So this is a blank page. And in this page, it's basically just reflection of every session.
Mm-hmm.
So here I have what went on in the session on the top right, and a note if I want to write anything about the track I've learned. And I think, yeah, that's just what you mean, is like you need to learn what you can control and what you can't control, like you said. And so these are the type of things that just, I think, just make everything you do. I mean, I feel like every person should have something that, I mean, whatever you're pursuing in life, that's something that it just is there for you to always write your feelings in and write your opinions in. And that's also something that I wanted to share, is because that's something that helped me level up so much, is just having a place where I can be completely honest with myself, is in this book. Um and yeah, I have quotes in there that I like. I have models in there that I follow, and that's something that has really helped me improve. So just thought I'd share this with you, just so you could see it.
Beautiful. Thanks so much. It's kind of like a journal where very reflective, very critical, whether be it self-critical or positive. Everything you write there is true to yourself, and it really helps you put down what's in your head, because the head can get very, like you said, cloudy sometimes, murky, and being able to put it on there, I think everyone should be able to do that, right? Like you said. So definitely, I mean, what you said, control the controllables, and sometimes, fret not those that you can't control. Like, focus on what you can control. And sometimes also I've heard people like trying to get A to Z really fast, but sometimes you gotta jump over like 1 foot poles instead of 7 foot poles. I mean, if you can, why not? But you know, you sometimes you can't rush things, right?
Yeah.
In most aspects, but definitely 100%. But hey, Kabir, you're the best, man. Thank you so much. And yeah, just keep in touch. I'm very happy for you. I would definitely be rooting for you. As every Singaporean that I speak to, and as a fellow Singaporean, it's always nice to see someone so young, and so mature, and then definitely disciplined, and to take it to the next level, because it's very rare to meet yeah, people like you. So fantastic.
You earn your trophies at practice, and you pick them up at the races. You always got to be better than yesterday. Not always, but you always got to have a day that allows you to be better than the person you were yesterday. And ego is the worst thing you can have. Everybody there is to help you. So that's also something I've learned recently, is like, people are there to help you. So take as much as you can from everyone.